In this episode, I'm going to talk about how to make objective markers for you to use in your miniatures games. So, miniatures games are great, but sometimes you need to not just set up and decide, I'm going to try to kill your guys and you're going to try to kill my guys. Sometimes it's nice to have an objective, to sit down and say, well, I need to hold this area and you need to be able to hold this area, or we need to get these treasures and get them off the board. And so a lot of times what people will do is they'll use dice and go, this is my objective. Problem with dice is that eventually at some point you forget which die is the one that's the objective and which one's the normal one you roll with, and you end up picking it up. So that's not good. Some people use coins, pennies, things like that. It just doesn't look nice. What I really like to do for objectives is I like to make objective markers. I like to do stuff that kind of fits the game that I'm playing, and sometimes will allow it to be a little bit more of a story, and a little bit more, it just gives me enjoyment that way. So I'm going to show you a couple that I've made, and I'm going to talk about some new ones I'm going to be making, and I'm going to give you hopefully some pointers on how you can make your own. So like many people, I used to play 40K a lot. Like many people, I don't play 40K anymore. It's neither here nor there. But when I was playing 40K, I played with objectives because I liked objective games, because the armies that I usually chose were not good blowing guys off the table kind of armies. I didn't table people too frequently. It was more, if I won, it was because I won because of the objectives. So I made these objectives down here, and these things are cool. These are what you would call Terminator size bases, which I think is like 40 millimeter, 40 or 50. I'm not 100% sure. This one is very cool. This is just cork. So I just took some pieces of cork and glued it to the base. Whenever I do any kind of basing, I don't use usually sand. I might use a little bit in sand in there, but normally what I end up using is baking soda. So a little bit of baking soda and CA glue, and it makes this super hard texture, but it's really fine. Sand to scale looks kind of big and weird, and this I think works great. So, dropped it. This one is this one's a helmet, like, a relic. Well, this was Brother Trevor's helmet, and he's dead now, but we want to go get it and put it in the reliquary. So that's a good objective for Space Marines to have. This just extra helmet you got left over, might as well use it. This one again is a whole bunch of cork, and then there's this is a bag, I think from Imperial Guard. I think this is like a leftover backpack or something like that that's on a sprue, and that allows you to just stick it down there. Maybe it's got important documents in it. Why in the 40,000th millennium, or what? Why? I don't know why they're still using paper. They could put that on like Dropbox 40,000. That'd be kind of cool. And then the documents would always be safe. But whatever. And then this one's really fun. This is the panel that is frequently, when you build a Rhino, Space Marine Rhino, inside the Rhino there's this bulkhead, which for me, I always chuck, because if I don't, the Rhino is crooked. I don't know why. The first time I put a Rhino together, I put that bulkhead in there, and then the Rhino was crooked. So I don't use it anymore. It stays square. It doesn't make any sense. But so this is the panel from inside that Rhino, and I just clipped away the walls and then just glued it down again. Some cork, some other little bits of sprue and stuff and whatnot. There's a skull. That skull's fun. You can look at that guy and go, well, that's a guy who was maybe using this, and now he's dead. I don't know. But it's a little story. It's something you can do with these kinds of models to do the stuff that you want to do. It just makes the story and the game a little bit more interesting. A new game that I'm about to start playing very soon is called Frostgrave. I have the book right here. Frostgrave is by Osprey Publishing, and it's very story-driven because it's a campaign game. It's fantasy. There's this city that has, let's just say, been covered in ice for 1,000 years. And now the ice has gone away, global warming or whatever. And so because of that, we're in a situation now where all these treasure hunters want to go in and find all the cool stuff that's inside the city. And that's the objective in Frostgrave. It's not so much, I need to hold this area. It's more of I need to go in and get that treasure and take it out. Okay, so I'm going to be making a bunch of different treasure tokens for Frostgrave. So how do you make treasure tokens? Well, the first thing you do for treasure tokens, I find, is you go through all of your old sprue There's always a lot of extra junk on sprue that you can use as treasure token. All these things that I did here before, these 40K ones that I just did, those were all extra junk that was on a sprue that I never used. So in this situation, here's some new stuff. So this is a chaos sprue for 40,000. And even though this is a fantasy game, you can see here, like this kind of stuff, okay, the power fist, not so much. But like these different icons, you cut that and like half bury it in the base and then make it, and that's a cool looking, that's going to be a cool looking like thing that you're going after. It's treasure. In this game, you're thinking about treasure. So, some of these things like this big over here, I'm trying to see if I get this in the camera. This is a heavy bolter. Probably not good for Frostgrave, but a lot of these skulls, a lot of these, like I said, these icons and things like this could be great for a game of Frostgrave. What do we got here? This is another, this guy right here. So right here, I don't know if you can see it, this big giant honkin' sword has come with Chaos Space Marines forever. I've never used it, but it's going to be an amazing piece of terrain, not terrain, but treasure for an objective. It's like in the sheath, it's got all kinds of stuff going on. I'm going to paint it all gold, it's going to look super cool, and this will be a great piece of treasure that you're going to get as part of your objective. There's some more of them here. You can see, again, these kind of weird, it's the same sword, but I could maybe use a couple of them, like a whole bunch of them they found, stack them up on the base, that'd be pretty cool. What do we got here? This is more chaos. The chaos comes with so much. If you're playing 40K, don't ever throw anything away from this because there's so much stuff in here that you can use. I don't know, this skull and this Nurgle thing, we'll get it down here, see if you can see it. This crazy Nurgle skull, 3 skull round, that thing's awesome in general, but for an objective, it's going to be even cooler. This stuff is from, now see, this is the trick. I'm going from a sci-fi place to now more of a fantasy place, and I'm still able to use a bunch of the sci-fi stuff for that. Here is a bunch of these guys. These are like dragon heads and things like that. Those could be sticking out of the base. Like there's something under, more of a sculpture underneath, and you paint it gold, boom, it's treasure, easy. These crazy plates, if you've ever built a Chaos Rhino, you've probably seen these before. I don't know what the heck they're for, but in a situation, they could be the top of a chest, and maybe it's got treasure in it. That's pretty cool. Over here, this is a regular Space Marine, not Chaos Space Marine set, and you'll see here there's a cool banner that could be laying down. This part might need to be ripped or you damage it so it looks like, whatever. It's a relic. It's a magical relic. The rest of the stuff is all plasma guns and stuff, so I don't know how useful that'll be for Frostgrave. Here, I'm not sure what this is for, but this is there's some cool axe, and it's not sci-fi looking. I don't know if you can see that or not, if it's even in focus. But this axe would work out pretty well, I think. That kind of stuff, which is sci-fi, can still work well for a game like Frostgrave or a game like Mordheim or a game like any game that's fantasy that you need objective markers for. Other stuff, now we're getting into actual fantasy stuff. This is from Empire Flagellants, I think, and there's all kinds of crazy, there's these crazy bells, there's this flail, there's all kinds of neat stuff that could just be like, a morning star. It could be a +5 morning star, you don't know. And so, obviously we want to go get that as treasure hunters because that's probably worth some money on medieval fantasy eBay or whatever. There's some scrolls, some more stuff. Again, a giant honkin' morning star. The Flagellants are big fans of the morning stars, as it turns out. What do I got here? This is more Flagellants. This banner is super cool. Like it's all ripped and beat up, and that would be perfect, I think, for something that's like an actual, you're going to put it on a base, and you're going to maybe, weather it and make it look real grungy and dirty. It's been under the ice, at least in Frostgrave, it's been under the ice for 1,000 years. Here's a bunch of cool books that come with the Flagellants. So you put these pieces together here, and you've got this piece, and it makes this cool book. You throw that down on top of a base. It's a book of spells. It's a grimoire, and you go after it, and it's going to work out great. This, Skeleton Warriors from Wargames Factory. If you just want to have a bunch of bones, like a reliquary of bones, there's so much stuff in here. It's crazy. You get tons and tons and tons of parts. You get shields, so you could have like a shield half buried in the snow here. You've got plenty of bows and swords and just so much extra stuff, plus all the actual skeleton bits. You know, so you could have like your objective and have a shield with like a dead skeleton underneath it. You know what I mean? Like he died underneath his shield as he was. You could maybe figure out a way to put arrows and stick it into it. That'd be super cool. Yeah, there's tons of different kits like this. Just a little note, this box of skeleton warriors, there's like 30 guys in here. I think I got it at my local shop for about 18 bucks. Even if you're never going to use them for an actual game, they make amazing basing material, because you always want to have somebody who's really scary and like a big boss. You want to have them just a field of bones that they're standing on for their base. These guys are perfect for that because there's so many skeletons in there and they're nice and fine. They don't work great, in my opinion, as standing up using them as normal models, but as terrain or scenery, you can't beat these things. Lastly, again, just more old Warhammer stuff. This is a box of Beastmen, and these models have got a lot of cool junk in there. Again, more shields, more crazy horned who knows what, lots of weapons, crazy axes and knives, things like that. All this stuff is going to make your gaming, I think, more interesting, because rather than just going after a poker chip, oh, that's my objective, I'm going after a poker chip, or I'm going after that quarter. Well, that's a bicentennial quarter, so that's very important. No, you want a model with a thing on it. You want treasure. You want objectives that you're going to go after. If you have an objective you have to hold, you want a banner. If it's a piece of treasure, you want a chest. You want a book. You want a sword buried in the mud. That's the kind of thing that you want. And the thing is that they're great little breakups between projects. You do a warband and you build these guys and you paint them and you dull coat them and everything's done. And now you want to take a little bit of a break. You work on some objectives for a while. Kind of gets your energy kind of reflowing in a different direction. You're not like, oh, I got more guys I got to build. You get to do a little sculpture, a little diorama. They're little mini dioramas, little stories in time. And that's the kind of thing that makes tabletop gaming, in my opinion, the best.